Hi there, it's Mcmaster from CreatorImpact.com here. So today, I've got a little bit of a personal video for you. I've actually found a whole bunch of my old websites that I put together years ago, and I thought I'd actually go through, check them out, review them, and just sort of give you a bit of a look at basically where I started. Now, the reason I thought I'd do this video is I found this because one of the first blogs I ever created was actually a fitness blog. I'm heavily into fitness. I also am heavily into martial arts. I teach martial arts, and when I started this blog, I just sort of thought it'd be a good way for me to try and organize my knowledge a little bit, and also I was going to try and make a bit of money with some affiliate marketing. So I found this, and to be honest, it actually doesn't look too bad, but what you probably don't realize is that this is actually a HTML website. Now, if that might not mean anything to you, basically I build websites on WordPress these days, and the way that works is I install WordPress, I create the template and design for the site, and that way you can go in and easily just add, subtract pages and add text in there. With a HTML site, you're creating every single page as its own file, and you're manually linking them all together and sort of uploading them all using an FTP program or something like that. It's a very long and painful way to go about it in comparison to what we're doing these days. So I actually tried to run a blog on this website where every time I posted a new article, I actually put the excerpt and a picture on the front page like this, and then I linked off. I don't know if this will work. No, it won't work. Sorry, I don't have all the files here, but I actually linked off to the article. And every time I updated, I would actually add these updates in manually. And it was a very long, drawn-out process. It took me forever to get anywhere with it. But it's quite funny. It's not responsive in any way. It just simply crops on the page, and it's basically built using tables and images. It's a bit over the top, and there's things are a little bit sort of jumbled together, but it's very interesting. I've got a few pages here, like if I go to the archive, we've got our archive of stuff which isn't even linked up. So, you know, we've got our archive of articles, so to speak. And you can see how I've tried to make one here with some affiliate banners, affiliate links to ClickBank programs, which I generally don't touch ClickBank these days because a large percentage of that stuff I found didn't convert too well. But online store, not available. That's actually an Amazon F store. I don't know if any of you guys remember those, where you can actually embed a little Amazon store onto your website. They've since discontinued that. Links, first thing I've done is link to a bunch of ebooks that you can buy. So it's pretty funny. It's not a bad first attempt at a blog. I had been building websites for about 10 years prior to this, but they were small business websites. Stuff you put up 5 or 6 pages and people wouldn't touch them. They just leave them there and they just have the same information, and once a year they'd want to update them. But since then, the whole internet has changed. This is back in probably about 2010 or 2011. I don't know if there's a date on here. But this got me thinking about the first websites I ever built. 20 years ago, I've got some of the first websites I ever built. So I've got those here, and I thought I'd go through them and check those out, show them to you, have a bit of a laugh as we go. So this is the first one. It was called Mcmaster Design. This is the second design for this website. The first design is completely gone. I don't have it anymore, which is a bit of a shame. It would be good to have the first website I ever built here, but we've got the second, which isn't too bad. Another table-based website using some Photoshop bevels and some fancy fonts and that I found online. Used a little bit of Flash on here, but Flash isn't available anymore. This little menu down the side used to be quite fond of. You go to my art section. Now, I don't know if these links are going to work. Maybe? No, not working. Let's go back. But you get the idea. We've got, used to be on a place called virtualavenue.net, which is a free host. I actually built this when I was 15. It was actually in 1999 that I first built it. Well, you can see here, it was updated a year later. In 2000. So the second design was built in 2000. I was 16 when I first built this site. So little just layout made in Photoshop. And I don't know if you can sort of notice it, but this is one image that has an image map placed over it. But a lot of the designs that I do, all the images and pieces are all chopped up and made into tables. This is one solid image at the bottom. This is an image at the top, and then we'll just sort of repeat that image down there. It was a really funny way of doing things. Definitely a lot more difficult than these days. But I didn't stick with Mcmaster Design for too long. I actually moved on and I came up with what I thought was a cool name at the time. It's not too bad. It was called Blind Eye Design. Oh, here's another one I never actually put up, Mcmaster Design. This was my, this is what I used when I didn't have any information. I just put blah, 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 blah in there. I actually stole that from a friend of mine who is also an extremely talented artist in 3D and one of those guys I was always trying to catch up to, but was never quite as good as he was. But, you know, hey, a bit of healthy competition is good. So now we're on to Blind Eye, which is what I named the website to sort of after I got sick of the whole Mcmaster Design thing. I believe I would have been still probably the 16 or 17 when this site was made. And you had to click the eye to enter, which I thought was a little confusing because even now as I look at that, I think it's funny that, you know, you need a resolution of at least 800 by 600 to view this site. And at least 16-bit color. Oh, you got to have the U in brackets just in case you're in a different country. So, Dingo Blue used to be our web provider back then. But that is, that's the entry page. So even when I first looked at this before, I went to click on the image and I thought, oh, it doesn't work anymore. But you actually have to click on the eye, which is a little confusing. And you get this little pop-up window, which I'll try and zoom in a little bit. So the website used to pop up in this little pop-up window and you'd have your little information. Once again, I'm not sure if these links are working. There you go, work. I don't know, I might just leave that there. I'll zoom in and when I edit. But you can see we've got a little Adobe Photoshop. This is Photoshop 5.5 blended in the background there and the money flicking over. A real classy look for a classy professional like my 16-year-old self. So we've got some work. If you want me to design a logo, you know, we'll work for cash. Another one, media. Used to put a lot of images in here. I got to say, as an adult, this is extremely confusing to look at, but only because I remember that these are actually the thumbnails. You click on these and they bring up an image. So that way, if I click on this, the teddy bear image, get this teddy bear. So little bits of artwork that I created when I was younger. That image isn't there. So pretty cool. Pretty cool to look back on anyway. Links. Fong, that is one of the only websites I think is still up. Misery in Motion is now called Dead Dreamer. Ingles Design is gone. It's actually a site by my friend who I was trying to catch up to. It's actually quite interesting to see if these websites are still here. So being that this was 20 years ago, there's probably a good chance that they aren't. But if it's still interesting, we have to check that out. Misc. So if you want to link to me, here are some banners you can use because everyone was lining up to link to me back in those days. Some of my friends, I had a few friends. We were all trying to start off with one friend of mine building websites, and then I wanted to build websites because it looked interesting and fun. And then from there, we had a bunch of other friends doing it. So we got a little competitive after a while, but we all linked to each other. So that was pretty cool. And by the way, if you want to catch me on ICQ, that's where you'll find me. A little bit about me, nothing too interesting. The bands I'm listening to: Papa Roach, Linkin Park, Eminem. Such a blend. Back to main. All right, that's still zoomed in. So that's Blind Eye Design. But the funny thing is, because we were so competitive, I actually rebuilt this website, I think a good 10 or more times over the next 2 years. And so I haven't got all of them. Some of them are lost. Some of them are completely gone. But I'll keep going through. Now we've got the same eye again. Once again, confused. I'm trying to click the image to get in, but no, you want to click the eye to enter, so we'll do that. Once again, we've got our little pop-up. Now these ones here, I'm very confident aren't linked up, but it gives you an idea of where the design went. I believe the design was standard then. I had this same frame for every page, and just the content in here changed with an iframe or something like that, I think eventually. But yeah, so that's that one there. But a bit of a step up. Things are looking a bit sharper, but still pretty amateurish. A bit heavily Photoshop, which was the style at the time back in the year 2000. Now here's one of the first of the decent designs I thought was okay. And once again, by today's standards, websites these days look a lot better. They're a lot more easier to read. Back in the old days, the little fonts and the funny little pixelated. This was the way to do it back in the day. You weren't cool if you weren't doing this stuff, that's for sure. But the grungy look, once again, all done in Photoshop. Just like little bits of text that come down the screen just to create this nifty little effect. It's yeah, that was sort of the way it was done back then. Media, zoom in again. So we've got some Photoshop images. My first 3D model ever was this Adidas symbol. I did that when I was learning multimedia. So it's pretty cool to sort of look at that. I haven't seen that for a while. That actually holds up all right. That's not too bad. And I did a little video of it, but I don't think the video is here at the moment. So yeah, that's basically that design. Another design. Very plain, and not a lot of, back in those days, you got to remember too, monitors and screens were a lot smaller, and we still try to jam as much stuff into as we can, whereas with phones these days, we tend to remove a lot of the clutter. But still, yeah, looking back at some of the old things, like having these little colons either side, also some people used to do the square bracket thing, lots of weird and wonderful little web design things that were cool back then, but these days you probably see it and think, what the hell is that, But here's another one. Now, this is linking off to another couple of friends here. Now, web rings. Does anyone, I don't know if they're still around these days, but web rings were these sites you could sign up for. And as long as you put this little bit of code on the homepage of your site, you could join the web ring, and people would cycle through and discover your site through these web rings. So it was kind of like just stumbling from site to site. Now, just remember, we need Internet Explorer version 4 or more to view this website, or Netscape 4.5. So, don't know if you find that funny or not, but let's have a look. All right, so this site is absolutely tiny. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. But this is, I've actually taken chunks of the Adidas logo, I remember, and just used it to create like this weird ice effect. So here we go, this is 2001. So this is while I'm in year 12. So I've put this website together. I've tried this. I think is a step up. It's starting to look a little bit more doable. But let's see if it's all linked up. Oh yeah, let's zoom in again. All right. So once again, we have more artwork that I've actually done. They open up in these little pop-up windows. Communicate. All sorts of weird stuff. I believe this is an unused design. I never used that design, but it doesn't look too bad. Could be a bit better. I also did a few, I did a little sample portfolio back in the day, this one here, but I never actually finished it. So that one's, that's pretty cool. And of course, a few other ones. Here's another one here. Oh, this is actually a version I thought I'd lost, but it's here as well. So I can actually go through, check this out. Once again, not filled in, but I did actually do something with this eventually. But here it is. It's actually not filled in here, but you sort of get the idea of what we're looking at. So there's a few little bits and pieces in here that I thought were actually lost. Well, that one's gone. Now this is one of the... So this one here, I can't open it because it's not there, but this is the first paid job, web design job I did for someone called School Shop Australia. They paid me $50 or something to do this, which when I was 17 I thought was amazing, but definitely worth a lot more money than that. But it's still kind of cool to see that there. I wish I still had that site tucked away somewhere. I'd pull it out and have a look at that too. But similar to this, very tabley, very everything's confined into a table. Here's where you find the stats again. My height, which is, very interesting. Experience. There you go. Interesting stuff. And once again, here we go. System specs. The computer I was running back in those days, an AMD K62, 380 megahertz processor with 160 megabytes of RAM and a 4 gig hard drive. But I had a Voodoo 3 video card. Oh, pathetic DeX mouse. It isn't even mine. Oh, there you go. I had a bit of sense of humor. Oh, and a 15-inch CRT monitor. There you go. Some funny stuff there. So this is a bit funny to sort of go back and look at this stuff. You have a bit of a laugh at it, but it's good for a bit of fun. All right, so I started experimenting around with a bit more 3D text in that. In this one, this is a little looping imagery in the background. So I think the look of this side is actually not too bad. I don't mind it. But let's go in and have a look. And once again, we've got our little table version here. We've got a picture of an eye there. Media. We've got the same images as before. Same information. But that table still remains the same. So it's pretty cool the way, I do like the way things stick off the table here. Even though the website, once again, it's not responsive, obviously, because it's ancient. But everything's sort of crammed into this little space. But I still like the way some of the effects are, like the 3D text popping off and to the outside of that. It's not too bad. And this is an old drawing I did of Chester from Linkin Park, rest in peace. Did that with my mouse back in the day. Well, it wasn't too bad. All right, next version. Let's have a look. Playing again with a bit more 3D. I used to love getting photos of eyes from different celebrities. This is actually Jessica Alba's eye from memory. But once again, the table looks there. We've got some padding either side there, some imagery. Got our media. Same as before. Nothing exceptional. Same old stuff. I've upgraded my computer this time to 256 meg of DDR RAM and a GeForce 2. So there you go. I've upgraded my computer with this version 6. Here we go. This is one I don't think ever got used. I think I've sort of skipped ahead a little bit here. But another website. This time I think I tried to get the design to fill more of the page at the top. So I had this little loop. But to be honest, a few versions older, a bit better than this one. All right, the Sarah Michelle Gellar edition. Once again, all right, so we go in here, and I've sort of added this sort of robot effect around the eye there. Now, this one I thought was pretty cool. A lot of people told me they thought this was my best design. To be honest, I just tried to make it as busy as possible and as futuristic as possible. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's funny that we've got news here. Once again, the news had to be updated manually. I'd open up the HTML file, add the news in manually, and re-upload it every time. But other than that, everything else here, if I zoom in still, the same again. Once again, I don't think this is here. There you go, it is here. Oh. So my first commercial web design job looks something like this. $50, and I don't think they ever actually put that up. I think they never actually used it, but I got paid, so, who cares? Blind Eye Evolution. Here we go. The original logo. Looks like we have a few screenshots here. So that's the original logo from the very first Mcmaster Design website. So there you go. There's a little bit of history there for you. Got a few more. Some images, Star Wars Photoshop images. Oh, that's an old one. That's another interface I worked on but never used. So little cables coming up. It's like a wooden interface with cables coming out of it. Jeez, I tell you this stuff. Moving on, and we're back to Active Body. So there you go. There's a look at some of the websites I made during my first 2 or 3 years of basically doing website design. Not commercially. This is done after school, sometimes during school. Making websites. Shows you how much of a computer geek I was back then. But I hope you found that interesting. Active Body I actually was the first time I sort of really tried to make websites for myself again. I did make a few websites throughout the years between those old websites because I did get a graphic design job when I was 18. I became a full-time graphic designer when I was 18, and I pushed my employers to promote website design. So I actually built websites for employers, for customers, and took it that way. So I've been doing the websites professionally for basically for almost 20 years. But my first actual website, 20 years ago, you've just looked at them, very amateurish, but I've got to say, I still think I'm pretty happy with that for those websites as first websites. So anyway, it's a bit of fun. I thought some of you guys out there might enjoy that. I think I've just did this video more for me, to be honest. But hey, if you like seeing this kind of stuff, I've still got old artwork I've put together, bits and pieces. Let me know if you want to check that out sometime. I can do a bit of a commentary on that. Otherwise, yeah, if you do want to see more of that, like this video. Also, if you want to learn more about building a website and WordPress and growing your brand online, please consider subscribing. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.